Hey guys, I don't know if this is going to work. I've got a much better internet connection than I did Friday night. I've done a ping test and it's about half. So we might get on okay. Peter, g'day. Paul, g'day. Hello, Mark. Let me know if you can hear me. That's the other thing. Don't know if you can. You probably can't yet. You know why? Microphone. Microphone, is that better? Try that. Am I getting anything there now? Can you hear me? Yep, we hear everything. Excellent. Me muttering to myself. Look, this was a bit of a harebrained idea, and as a rule, I'm pretty good with questions. That's worse. Plugging this in makes it worse. Let's have a look and see where we're not plugged in properly. Is that better? Let's get this right first. It was fine before. Is that better? About 3:15. Okay, so we're good. Excellent. No worries at all. Thanks, Paul. Now, this isn't going to be anything except CAD, so anyone who's not really into that, I won't be offended if you step out because it's a bit boring. I'm not going to make it more than an hour because everyone gets a bit tired and it's a lot to take in. I know a lot of you are I know there's a lot of people out there who are kind of interested in taking on some CAD work and have got no idea really where to even start with it. Hopefully this isn't too laggy. I think it'll be better than it was on Friday night. But this is Onshape. Which is going to be a constantly challenging landscape a lot, right? Onshape.com. Now, this is online or a web-based CAD program, which is really good for a couple of reasons and not so good for other reasons. I think for purposes of our use, we could probably discount the reasons it's not so good. The good thing about it is that it doesn't use up a lot of computer or CPU space. Yes, we're taking questions. I'm listening. So you've got a lot of storage space on your own computer. And secondly, you don't have to worry about saving it all automatically all the time because you're not going to lose anything because it saves. And if you lose the internet connection, it's already there. It's still there. The downside, I guess, from an online or a net-based or a server-based CAD program is that if you're doing a lot of secret squirrel stuff, which I'm not, in fact, I'm pretty happy to share anything I make something that's on my on my CAD portfolio. You just let me know and I'll send you a link. That's easy. Very, very happy to share. But it's a public forum and there's no actual sort of privacy for what you design. So if you wanted to make secret squirrel stuff that you didn't want everyone else to see, you'd either pay for a subscription or you download some inadequate sort of a program and use that. But it seems a bit sort of doubtful. So you've got to sign in, and you sign in for a free program, a free account. It's pretty quick and straightforward. And there's no real limits on it. There's no rendering. Electro Pancake, g'day. There's no high-tech rendering, right? And there's no cam work on the free version yet at this point. But if you want something that you can export to a 3D printer or to a router software or something like that, this is really fantastic. I've only ever used the free version. I did sign up for a trial or two, but it's more hassle than it's worth. We've got up here, we've got a series of buttons up here in the corner when you first sign in. You've got Owned by Me, which are your actual drawings that you've been working on. Recently opened, so the ones that sort of you've been looking at. And Created by Me, which are things that other people own that you've done some work on. Shared with Me, it's something that someone shared with me and I can actually do some work or help or make a comment on a revision or something. And Public. So if we click Public there, this is a list of all the depending on how you sort them out. There's a list of all the basically all the things that people are working on. So if, for example, you wanted a picture of a switch or a switchboard or a house brick or a mobile phone or something else that you might be thinking of drawing up that you're not sure about, you can just go and grab it off someone else and borrow it because it's right there. So it's worth a look through, and you'll learn a lot just looking through, actually, seeing what's actually there. So that's how that works. Let's have a look at old mate's violin here. That also is probably not the most simple file on the whole server, but anyway, let's give it a minute. So I don't know how much lag you're getting. Hopefully it's not too bad. I think I've probably got to slow down a little bit. Got this bar down the bottom, which means that it's not my actual, even though I'm logged in up here. Hey, Russell. even though I'm logged in, I can't actually edit this document. So this looks like a 3D printed violin. I've got all the parts. This looks like a good drawing, actually. He's labelled everything, which more or less. Or we started off labelling everything, which is usually how it works. Up here we've got a list of features, which are actual parts of the drawing. That's still coming. It's slowly getting there. Now that's a very nice drawing, absolutely. We've got features down here if you want a bit of a look at it. So there's a section view. If we turn on the plane, we can just select a section view. There we go, we've got a section view. Very nice drawing, actually. Someone's put a lot of time into this. Something that's a little bit sort of a little bit organic too. So all the section views done is cut it in half on the basically on the plane, and up here in the default geometry, you've got your top and your front and your right plane. We can turn them off or on with the little eye. See the little eye is turned off with that one. Good stuff for us. The right one's turned on. So you see the little eye, and the top one's turned off, and the origin point, which is the first 0 point basically in the drawing, that's turned off too. So we can either finalize that and have a permanent, well, semi-permanent section, or we can just close it again once we've had a look. And there we are, back to there. Now down here there's a parts list. If we have a look at that, we can turn these on and off with a little eye as well. So that's how that works. So you turn the chin rest off and on, and the saddle. Which I don't know. But if we come over here and we want to know where something is in the drawing, if we click on it, it will highlight on this drawing exactly which part you've clicked on. So you see that's highlighted it. So we can either turn that off, which turns that off. We've got all the zoom in and out controls. We've got an appearance panel. We can print this out. We can take a measurement and we can work out what it weighs. We can do some basic analysis, like probably some quite complicated analysis too. We can do curve analysis and interference detection. So basically, if you've got two bits that look like they're going to bump together somewhere, we can do interference detection on your drawing. And that's something you can do in your drawing as well. Often a section viewer will just pick that up. But I'm not going to make a violin. This is just someone else's drawing, and we've picked this up as a random. If we go back here to Onshape, and we'll start on something. Go back to things that are owned by me. And we've got some options. We want an Onshape document at this point. And we'll call it something, I don't know. Something that would seem like a really good idea is to make a workshop with some models that we can move around so that we can rearrange our workshop and know if everything fits. That seems like a fairly useful thing that everyone could probably use. So I thought that's where I'd start. And we call that workshop. That'll automatically open. Now, you'll notice that our planes are already up on the first workspace here. So you've got a right plane. Turn that off and on, same as before. And a front plane, we turn that off and on. And a top plane. And we've got an origin point left. So this is the origin point, which is 0 point. Not a lot of point turning any of them off just yet. But say we want to start with a workshop. We've got Part Studio 1, and this name on this is not particularly helpful. I don't know how to fix that, because down here under MS Spare Room Machine Shop is a tab that says Part Studio 1. I'm going to rename that to Workroom. And then there's another one that's called an assembly, which has a different symbol if you look at that. This one's just got two little columns, and this is just a part studio for a single part. This next one, if we hover over it, it's got two pieces fitted together, and that's an assembly. You can't see that because it's behind my logo, which is a bit of a problem. I'm going to have to work on that. I'm not sure how to fix that, but we're going to have a look. So we can pick which side we want to draw on, because this is a bit confusing. But if we have this, look at this little square up here in the corner, right? We've got front, top. If we click on the top, that'll automatically bring the top plane down nice and flat like that. We can drag it around. I just use the mouse. We can drag that around, but if we use the right button, we can just drag that like that. If we click on it, if we click on the corner, that gives us orthographic. So we need a workshop. How big is our workshop? How big is my workshop? If we sketch it out, if we start at 0, we've got a sketch panel comes up, and that's got some things on it. We're not going to really go much into these. They're all fairly useful things in their way, but we don't need to click any of them. Show over define is kind of useful, because if something doesn't work, you can see where it's actually where you've got one too many measurements on it that don't add up. That's helpful. But we need to select a sketch plane to draw on. So that's where we start. So if you just you can either click the top plane there, which works. See, and that selects top plane. Or we can go over here and select top plane, which does exactly the same. And that works. We've got all sorts of drawing tools. What shape's our workshop? Mine's a square. Right, and it's got a bit of a cutout for a wardrobe. So let's start with that. We don't need to worry about any dimensions, so we'll just press escape. There's a doorway here, and then there's a cutout here. Now, if we use this line tool, right, that'll click directly to that line. So when we come over, it'll turn orange. And it'll turn dotted when it's parallel, when it's perpendicular. And then it's got a little thing called a constraint. If you have a look, there's a little, basically a right angle symbol there in the bottom corner, just below my cursor. And that means that it's perpendicular. Now, if we go to this one and highlight that one and then come back, that changes. And what that's doing is saying that it's actually parallel with the other line, which is two different things. So what you've done is change that slightly. If we click on that, it puts a line in. And we click on there, puts a line on. If we press escape. Now we haven't put any dimensions on there. That's roughly what shape my room is. And there's a little workshop, a little wardrobe in the corner here. What I'm going to do is use the scissors, which is this one here, trim. We can press lowercase m, or we can just select our icon. And if we select that line there between the 2 points and that line, that automatically removes that. Now, this square, everyone tell me if I'm going a bit quick, but this square here is grey compared to the background here, which is quite a lot lighter. And that means that it's been resolved, or the sketch is complete. All the corners match up, and I guess it's filled up with water. There's nowhere there's no leaks in any of our sketch anywhere. So because that's grey, we know that we can extrude it. And we could go in and put some measurements on that now if you wanted to. If we click this one, which is the measurement, right, a dimension, you can do exactly the same thing by just pressing D, selects it. There's shortcuts for everything. If you press L, it selects line. If you select Q, it selects construction line. D. M selects trim. We'll start with dimension. Now, that's not much use to us. It says 61 millimeters. Room isn't as square as you think. That's exactly right. But I reckon the room's about 3 meters by 3 meters. So we make a scale model, or we could do it in full size. And there's really nothing stopping us doing it in full size, except that it gets a bit bulky. So let's do it at 10 to 1. If it's 3 meters, we'll call this 300 millimeters. Now we can change that. If we go up here to this drop down tab up the top here next to where it says workshop, we can change the workspace units. So we can change it to inches, right? And we can change it back. So if you've got something that, a part that really is in inches and you'd like to work on it, and that, you can change it backwards and forwards. You can change it to yards and meters. You can change the amount of decimals and kilograms and all those sort of things. So that's pretty useful. We'll leave it at millimeters. Now we've clicked off that sketch when we've done that. It's closed. So we need to go back to the sketch. You notice again that the sketch has got a little eye beside it. So we can turn the sketch on and off if you want to hide it. But if we right click that, there'll be a little turn that says edit. And that gives us our sketch back with our dimensions. If we do the same thing here. And we've missed out a decimal point there, but we can easily change it. So I reckon that's roughly what size it might be. That's the floor plan. For the purpose of this, there's not a lot of point probably extruding it up 8 foot tall or whatever. But we can probably do this just to make it solid. If we click the extrude button, I don't know if anyone saw what I did there. There's this button here. You don't need to close your sketch because it'll automatically select the sketch if you've got your sketch open, and we'll do that. And we can rename the sketch, right? There's a little pencil there. And that way, when there's 1,000 sketches, you can look back and see exactly what it is, because that changes the name here on the feature menu. Now, to make this into an object instead of just a sketch, if we click the extrude button, that'll extrude it up 25 mil, which is 250. Give it 10 mil, say, for timber and everything. So there we go. Doorways over here, wardrobes here. We've got all this space. We can change the color. We can change it here where it says part 1. We can change this to the floor. And that way we know exactly what we're looking at. Is everyone following? I don't know if you are or not, but anyway, I'm having fun. If you right click this, there are all sorts of things you can do, right? You can export it to a printer. You can export it to a laser cutter. You've got resizing, so you can zoom it to fit basically to fit the space. On the right click, you can copy it. You can make a section view. You can hide it. You can isolate it. You can make it transparent. If you want to see something through it to see how it fits. You can assign the material, you can edit the appearance, or you can add appearance to the face. Let's just change the face. Say it's got timber in it, okay? We'll call it timber face. There we go. And change that to brown. So we've got the floor. Is everyone following? Now, you can just sketch it out and put measurements on it later. That's not a big deal. What have we got in here? I've got a cabinet in this corner, and let's work on that first. You could cut out a cardboard to make a model. You could. Absolutely. You could print it out with a printer, and we could make a drawing and print it out, cut it out with scissors, and make a model that way. Or you could 3D print the bits. So what we need is to press the plus button, which is right down here in this corner. There's a plus button. I'm going to have to do something about that logo. I think we're going to delete that next stream. And if we create a new part studio, it pops out almost past the end here. That puts us straight back into part studio number 1 because we already called the other one workroom. If we rename this one as tool chest. And let's start here. This is a fairly straightforward thing. The same thing. Sketch on top. So it's all basically the same. And we'll go corner rectangle, which is G is the shortcut for that. Right. I reckon I'll call it 45 mil wide. And I think it's about 600 mil deep. So we'll call it 60 millimeters deep. That doesn't look right. It might be 90. If we need to change the measurement, if we just press the escape key so none of this is lit up, then we can just double click on the measurement and change it. So that's kind of useful. I reckon it's 90, that chest. Well, the same deal, we extrude it because I reckon it's 900 high. That looks something like my main computer chest. Or my main launch lathe chest. We can do the same. We add an appearance. It's a pale yellow sort of colour. Right. There you go. So we've got the two parts. What we need to do is go to this assembly. When we hover over it, see the other ones when we hover over them, they've just got a part studio icon. This one's got an assembly, 2 parts fitted together. If we go there, and we can insert this. First bit we want to insert is the floor. And this comes up with a list. One says tool chest, one says workroom. If we insert that and click OK, we can stop this moving around because this is right on the origin point, see? We've scaled it 1 to 10, I'm sorry. You can please yourself whether you do that. If you want to do it in full size and measure it up, it's not a problem, but this is probably a pretty good project to do. This has got a fancy little feature here. We can right click this where it says here, and we can use this to here, which is fix. And that gives us a little part is fixed, right? So move around. we can sit all the other stuff on top of it and this won't move around. Once we've got that, we can just pull the bits in, really. Put this tool chest in. Now, that's kind of exactly where it is in the room. Right? But if we wanted to move it around, we just got to click on it. And we can grab these and drag it around in a circle. Or we can just press escape. That hasn't put it back where we wanted it. It's all over the place. Another thing that's interesting is that this pokes through the floor here because this is our origin point. Now we can change this quite easily because we've extruded this up and we've extruded this up from the plane. It's easy to go back to our workroom, part studio here, and where we've got our extrude up here, if we right click that and click edit, what we can do with this is click this arrow. Right? And that's reversed it, so it's going back down through there. Here's me just clicking on random stuff. But anyway, we've got a floor. If we go back to our assembly, that's sitting actually nicely on the floor. It's the wrong color. Going to change that a bit. We can work backwards and forwards comfortably. Let's go. What have we done here? That's a very interesting thing. It's something new that's happened. And that's the other thing, is that this is constantly updated. So anyway, mess around with that. So there we go. So if we click this, we can move this out anywhere on this here. What we'd like to do is put this back nice and square in the corner, because now it's all marked up. And we use a mate as how Onshape works. You've got all these mates here: a fasten mate and a revolute mate and a slider mate and a planar mate and a cylindrical mate, pin slot mate, all those things, ball mate, tangent mates. if we just use a fasten mate, and click one side in the middle there, because it's automatically found the center of it. And the center of that brings us all back in line, and we can offset it where we like. So it's just some maths in my head. I've just used a negative to move it back the other way. So there we go. We've got the chest in place. So walk in the door. The lathe goes here. We know roughly how big the lathe is. Is everyone following along? Is everyone asleep? I don't know where everyone is. There's still 5 people watching and you're crazy. But anyway, we want a table here, however rough we want to make it. So another part studio. How big's my table? We make something a bit more fancy for the lathe table, I guess, on the top sketch plane. If we go 60 by 90, if we click the top, that brings it back in frame here nicely. Now it's a work table that's 900 tall off the top there. If we go on this so that we can see it. So when we extrude it, if we click on the extrude, we've got a few options here. We can just extrude this 900 high scale feature. And that's all right for a new piece. But if we wanted to make this just a tabletop, and we only wanted to make it, say, 50 millimeters deep, which is about what it is, that sits it on the ground. However, we've got a thing here called starting offset. And if we type this in as 85, which is 850, that gives us a desktop that's 900 to the top off the ground. So that's one way of dealing with it. Now, say we want some legs on here. Let's do another sketch. Let's get a bit fancy. Put a sketch on the front here. And click line, which is L. And it shows up a little box on the center line there. If we press Q, which gives us a construction line, we can basically come down here. If we go over this line here, this gives us a yellow dotted line here, a yellow inlay when we're parallel. And that's telling us, no good me pointing at the screen, but the two little constraints there in the bottom say that it's parallel to the bottom line and the side line. So if we just press escape, it won't put a measurement in. I don't know what these look like. I'm guessing here. Let's have a bit of a look. But they've got fancy legs here. and I'm only sort of guessing. But I think there's something like this. This little arrow beside these points here, right, that gives us all sorts of options on here. So each of these have got options, right? Just a matter of remembering where they are and what they do. If we click down on this one here, there's a few options here. We've got a 3-point arc. If we can select that, click both ends of the arc, then we can change this a bit here. The same again. I don't think that this looks anything like this, but we'll give you some sort of an idea what sort of a table leg it looks like. Same there. Just click that. Then we can use this here to change the radius a bit. You can type one in, or you just press escape. If we put a line in here, right, it's given us a parallel line with the center line. But if we select, if we move over this, say, the highlights, and move back, it'll give us an orange stripe through the one that's parallel with that line. And it lights up when it does it. So that's roughly what it looks like if we mirror that. So use the mirror function, and it's asking us up here for a mirror line. Hey, Nigel. When we can, then it says select areas to be mirrored. So that's very simple. We still haven't got a line across the middle. You see, that's still a grid, hasn't actually been filled in. So if we get this one, draw a line from there to there. There we go. Then we can extrude that. So same thing again, really. It says here, faces region. If we select this here, it automatically puts a hole in it and everything. We want to go back the other direction. Let's make it that deep. Now, what happens is when you finish the extrusion, that automatically hides the sketch for you, so it's out of the way. If you go back over here to the sketch and turn it back on, the sketch appears again. So we can do the same. And where it says sketch reasons to extrude, we can mess around here and try and find the sketch. Or we can just click the sketch here in the feature list, and we can make this one the same thickness. But if we go starting offset, the same thing, we could just select this arrow a different way. We don't need to wait to finish all this before we move the sketch around. Here's my lathe bench without getting too fussy. I guess for the purposes of this, Now, scrolling. Right, we've got something we've drawn up and it's put it off the side of the sketch. If we touch this, it brings it back in, but it brings it back in with the origin point fairly close to the middle. If we move up here to the top and use our scroll wheel, that'll scroll it down. The same as if we move down here and use our scroll wheel, it'll scroll it up out of the way. And same here. So that's how that works. So if we put the lathe on top of there, something like this, I'm guessing. And extrude it again. Reverse it back over the other way. That puts a box there. Now, what you've done is that when you move this back over to where there's a point touching your existing object, then this changes this from new. If we put it back as new, it's a different color, to add, which adds it together. Now, on this extrude command, we've got lots of things we can do. We can remove it, which will put, if they intersect, it'll leave us a gap. Or we can intersect it, which means that if they intersect, it'll only leave the bits that the two pieces that touch together. Let's have a look at that. How can we show that? We'll move this back here so you can see. And if we sketch on this face, we don't need to select a sketch plane. It says sketch plane, but if we select this face, it'll tell us face of extrude 4. And we can draw let's draw a rough outline here like this. For a lathe. It doesn't have to be anything particularly sweet, I guess, but we've got that there. And what we'd like to do is cut this piece here out of this. So same thing, if we use the extrude function, if we click remove instead of add, see what happens? That cuts that out of there. So we've got basically the lathe. Now, let's change the color of this so it's not quite so confusing. We'll rename this here as lathe. We'll call it launch. And we click on this and, oh, where are we here? Edit appearance. Let's make it light green. There you go. So same thing, if we come back into our assembly, we can insert it just the same. It'll show up here on this list. We click that. It'll insert straight at origin if we just put it in there and click this without moving off, or we can drag it around wherever we like. If we put it straight in there at origin, all we've got to do, we'll hide that for a minute. And if we click on this here, that gives us a set of arrows to move this around. If we click on the center circle, we can move this to a different point. Maybe. What we want is that there. And we can pull this round here to 90 degrees. We can move this back here to the right spot. We move it over here to where you want it. And there are ways to set this up. If we turn this other part back on while we're doing it, we can see whether they actually interfere. That looks about right. So that's the start of the workshop. Galen, yeah, you can. And with this, yes, there are things you could do for sure. Rendering is fun. As a basic tool, we'll start with this. Anyway, that looks a bit like my workshop for a start. There's another bench in here, and there's another bench over here in the corner. But there we go. So we've taken up a fair bit of time. I don't know if anyone's learnt anything, but that's sort of how Onshape works. We've got basically we've got part studios where we make parts, and we've got assemblies. We can also put a sub-assembly in. So if you wanted to make it, they're laid out of separate parts and put them all together in a sub-assembly, then you could just drag the assembly in and it's all locked together, and you can just move it where you want to move it if you want a bit more realism. But that's sort of how that works. There's not a lot of point, I don't think, putting walls in, but if I was going to do that, I'd go back here to the workroom, select that, right, find the top plane here, and probably turn this off. So extrude here, we can suppress that so it's missing, and all we've got is a sketch. If we use if we edit that sketch and we use this offset function, where are we? This one. and select that, it gives us a little arrow off the side and a parallel line. So if we change this across here so it's on the outside, and we call this 100 millimeters deep, 10 millimeters deep, if we select an adjacent line, that automatically pulls this up here so that they line up on the corners, and we do the same here. And in this inside corner it does the reverse. And we've got that line there. If we click that, what we can do is extrude that space up as high as we like. Now, this gets a bit complicated because what it's done is this extrude number one, it's actually extruded around the edge rather than the middle. So what you're going to have to do is close that one and select the center again. That fixes your problem. If we go back to our assembly, we have in this, because this is two separate parts, back to workroom, we've got part 2 here, which we'll rename as the walls. I think blue's an awful colour for walls. Let's edit appearance. Let's go for a nice creamy. Ah, that's a bit awful. The grey. What do we got here? That's a bit awful. We can go here to the mixer and make something up. But with shadow, it doesn't really show us. What we're going to have to do when we come back to here is the same thing. We're going to insert it. If we don't move off this little screen here, it inserts it back at the origin point. So this will work exactly. That brings us to all sorts of problems. Right? It's a tiny little workroom in it. Warren was having trouble with doors. We might look at doors basically next time. But rather than sketch them in, what I would do is sketch it directly on the wall here. So put a sketch plane basically on that wall. How high is the door? We'll call it 90 wide and 200 high. I could extrude that easily. Remove it rather than add it. I have to go back the other way. That's given us a doorway, see? Simple as that. It saves time when you draw one part and duplicate it. Yes, that's exactly right. If we go to our assembly, that should be automatically updated. And you can see the lathe and the bench in there through the doorway. There's a window over here in this side. We'll do the same and then we might call it a day and answer some questions. I'm pretty quick with this, and I'm not actually sort of I know that this is about 1 metre up. Now, because this is unconstrained, which would mean there's no dimensions on it, we can just grab this line I'm a liar. We're going to have to put a dimension on that. There's a constraint snuck in somewhere. We can extrude that. Wrong button. Not doing well here. There we go. That opens up the room a bit. There we go. So that's a fairly useful little model to make of your workspace, because if you want to move things around, all you got to do is we should I think if we have another go at this next week, we might make these drag and drop so we can just move them around. There's an easy way to do that, but right now we've got to actually change the dimensions on them, but it might be very useful. So wanted to try and put some of these sort of ideas or put the experience of messing around in a CAD program to practical use, and have something that's actually of some use to people. So hopefully that is. I'm sure you've all got thousands of questions, and you're going to go and try and do this, and you're going to think, yeah, I can't handle this, or this isn't doing what I want it to do, or how do I make this work? If that's the case, hit us up. Message me on Facebook or message me on Discord, which is really good. The Discord server is the best place to catch me, probably. And Facebook's good too, if you want to catch up with me there, or Instagram. And we will, I'll give you some sort of an idea how to fix your problems. But like David, like Galen says, this is useful because if you've got two of these, and this is just a square box. So if we want to go here to the tool chest, we can right click down here on this tab, and it comes up, we can duplicate it. So what this has done is given us a tool chest copy. I'll copy one. If we rename that for workbench, and change the sketch to something like that, we've got basically an outline of a workbench, just the same. I'm going to rename this to workbench so we don't get confused. And it's a really good habit to have, and probably just to make it a little bit less difficult to determined between them, we're going to change the appearance too. So we'll change this to blue, purple or something. And then if we go back into our assembly, right, we can insert the workbench. We've got another one there to show up. That goes over there somewhere, roughly. Don't think it goes just there because it's through the floor. It just Control Z that and start again if you muck it up. Now this doesn't go quite in the corner of that room. There's a bit of a gap behind it like that. So there we go. It's another piece of furniture. So it's as simple as that. And the rest is sort of the same. There's a steel rack goes in behind there. It's very basic dimensions, not complicated at all. So all you've got to do is duplicate the tool chest and see, these are, something's moved there. See, this is sticking out the side. At some point we've moved this, so we're going to have to align that. We'll look at all that next time. Anyway, there must be 1,000 questions, but everyone seems like they're just sitting there. I'm impressed that we've got 6 people because I'm sort of, it's something that's interesting to me, and I've just basically messed with it for long enough that I've picked up all the shortcuts and tricks and things, and I've watched a lot of tutorials. Go and watch some tutorials. They don't always show the correct procedure to do things. A Feng Shui button, that's what it needs. I'm sure there's a feature script that you can add in. In fact, there's probably a market for one if you wanted to sit down and design one. If you're looking for a project. Let's line this up. See, we can easily turn this over. Fasten mate. That's going to drive me crazy. Make connectors. Zoom that in. Use that one. And that one. That'll line them up, but it's not quite right. So we can offset that. Offset that 10. It's actually -10. Let's line that up. And this one must be -10 too, I think. There you go. So they're fastened in place. You can't move that now. This is fastened to the fixed piece. So anyway, not a complicated thing to do. You can put as much detail into something like that as you like. And if all the pieces are actually on different tabs or workspaces, then you're not using up a lot of computer space in the server, and you're not going to worry about too much about your bandwidth messing up. When you start down the track of making something complicated with no particular planning, then you're going to have problems. If you're building an entire railway locomotive, or for example, we'll go out here and we'll have a look at what I've been working on. You've probably all seen this. Might take a minute. Because it is a fairly complicated drawing with, as you can see, 1,000 tabs here. That's actually a fuel tank. But if we go to this one, which is my general arrangement, and everything just ended up on here because I started parts to map out and to view getting them right, and everything just got joined in, and now it's all over the place. So there wasn't a lot of planning in this one. It's a bit of a problem. But see how long this has taken to load? The thing is that everything's interconnected. Everything's dragged off into different designs and then modified, or it's modified here and then dragged off, or it's been dragged off and then we're modified it since, and it's all got to be updated. So there's a fair bit of computer power being used, an internet pad that will eventually load up. I don't think you have any problems because everything is just a matter of making shapes. For example, this bottle is a square with a round on top. It's not complicated. Revolve function, a center line down the middle, and then revolve it round in a circle. They might work on that next time. What I'm working on, which procrastination project, but that's where we're at with that. Tune in tomorrow night live stream, which won't be this style. It'll be a very bad telephone live stream like it always is, and we'll have a look at what I have been doing and some of the news and stuff, what's been done. But I won't show you the bits I've got, but we're making some progress. Anyway, we're an hour and 20 minutes, which is way over time. Thanks for joining in, guys. Hope I can help inspire a few people to have a go at this, because it's a pretty useful tool and it's simpler than you think, and it can be used in ways that there are things you can do to make your workspace pretty realistic and to make your to envisage your drawing as an actual object. So if you're keen to make something, or you've got something you'd like to sketch out, this is a really good tool. It's free, it's professional grade, there's thousands and thousands of tutorials about it, and lots of cool projects that people are making that you can follow through with the walkthrough, etc. if you wanted to make something similar. There's no cool projects for this Foden S18 truck, because this is a pretty complicated drawing. Even there's 1,000 bits. 1,000 shapes, but it's all just made up the same. This needs a bit of a clean, I think. Still got all the windows and things in place. But give you some idea. Anyway, this is a bit complicated, Nigel. It started off with just happened with this is that there was a build-off or a competition on Facebook with a group of people that I sort of interact with and follow a little bit. And many years ago, I used to make plastic model trucks. Don't know why I stopped, except that it got a bit boring and a bit expensive, and there's only so many Max and Kenworths that you can have because they're really boring trucks. So I wanted to participate, and I started with this, and there were some things that I wanted to sort of model up to see sort of exactly how they were with a view to 3D printing them maybe, or just seeing how bits fitted together. And in the end, I've got, I wasn't going to show you this, but in the end, I've got basically a chassis with red gloss paint on it tonight. Look at that. Oops, drop that. It's broken that. And all the bits. So it looks like it might be a reality. It's been to procrastinated some things I shouldn't have. I should have got things done. But working forward, we've sort of made a big enough hole in this that we can go ahead and finish it in the time frame and do okay and get some of the other things done as well. Anyway, thanks guys. I've dragged on long enough. Really appreciate you tuning in. This might be a regular thing, I think, for now. We'll work through some stuff, and then we might do some projects like basically let's make this, because there's always someone coming up saying, hey, look, can you CAD this up for me? And I do it regularly for friends and acquaintances and people I work with and so forth. So if you've got something that you'd like CAD or designed or modeled up so that you can go in and change it or whatever, there are ways we can do that. We can work joint on a project. So let me know. Give me some idea, and I'd be very, very keen to give you a hand with it. So pretty quick with this, and I reckon without too much work and a little bit of enthusiasm and a few hours on it, you probably will be too. But thanks, guys. I'm out, and if I can work out how to actually close this, there we go, end stream button. Appreciate it, and I'll be back tomorrow if it's not too much. I didn't tomorrow either, but there mightn't be anything to see. Never is, but it could be too. Thanks, guys. I'm out.